Good evening. Welcome to Vibin with Ashley Live. I'm your host, Ashley Live, and this is episode 201. I'm very excited for my guest this evening. Music producer and songwriter Steve Diamond is joining me on the show tonight. So Steve has had a prolific career with multiple number one hits and Grammy nominations. He's collaborated with artists like the Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, and Reba McEntire. His Emmy-winning song, Consider Me Gone, stands as a testament to his songwriting abilities. In 2023, Steve embraced his role as a mentor and songwriter on Access TV's new music competition show, Banded. Thank you guys so much for joining me this evening. Steve's in the house, so let's get into it. How are you? Welcome to episode 201, guys. I see some familiar faces in the house. What's up, everybody? Where are you tuning in from this evening?
Hey, Ashley.
Steve, how are you? Good to see you too.
Good.
Welcome
Good to see you.
to my show. Yes, I'm
glad to be here.
excited to have you on. We spoke when you were on the show Banded, but now you're on my show. So we're going to dig a little bit more into your musical career and what's next. Sound good? Let's do it.
Sounds
So
great.
I want to start with childhood. Can you talk to me about those formative years in your life and how music shaped your childhood?
Yeah, I was raised by wolves, but they were very musical wolves. No, my parents, they just loved my music. My father particularly was into folk music, and I started playing piano and guitar at about age 7. Played some banjo also, and just really took to it. It was, for many people, it was solace, it was comfort, it was something that kind of enfolded me and interested me. And I took guitar playing very seriously, studied guitar, wound up teaching guitar and majoring in it at UCLA for a while. But as a kid, my mother also was a singer. And I was playing mostly acoustic, definitely acoustic guitar, and just loved basically folk music at that point. And then, I realized girls like guys with guitars, and at about 13 or 14 started a band, and, played in pretty much, not every style, but I played in rock bands and country bands and jazz bands and top 40 bands and a lot of crummy bars and a lot of fun bars and a lot of tours and just kind of a wide variety of things. People come to songwriting in so many ways. I have friends that didn't start songwriting until they were, 25 or 30 years old, but I was kind of always into it as a means of expression and, means of social acceptance. And still to this day, I feel probably most comfortable with a guitar in my hands. It's like, I've even heard like Sheryl Crow, even when she's singing, she is holding a guitar. And I understand that because there's something very comforting. You can just watch TV. I love having a guitar. So, I love keyboard as well, but there's something just so tactile about a guitar, that little quarter note bend is so
I love it. It's
satisfying.
like an extension of your arm.
It is, and your heart and your belly and everything else. Yeah, it's and also I guess psychologically, it's a defense against the world. It's kind of between you and the world. Hadn't thought of that until this very moment. But
that you bring that up though, because most people just kind of go into the world and are not like holding on to anything, but like it's like your guitar is like your safe haven, and it's kind of like I feel stronger, I feel better when I have it with me.
That's true. It's funny. This isn't a psychology show, but I think that some of my social growth was stunted because of the guitar, because I had it, and people were drawn to me because of it. I didn't have to develop my game.
You said girls like guys who play guitar, and then it was probably an opening piece, and someone's like, "Hey, that's cool. You play guitar," and then it was kind of that common ground of like, you play, I play, or I like guys who play guitar.
Right.
Yeah.
It's such a social instrument
Yeah.
too. You know, you go to the it's
Mhm.
great. It's a
So why do you
big part of my
think
life.
you gravitated towards the guitar at such a young age?
I think my father was so into folk music, and folk guitar is kind of the main instrument uh, for folk music. And I also played some banjo too. I mean, I was into rock bands mostly, but I had a kind of half
Mhm.
an ear cocked towards country even and blues. And so I've kind of learned my guitar style developed in part with banjo and acoustic. And I mean, if I were to talk about my guitar style, I'd probably
Yeah.
play more like Mark Knopfler or Lindsey Buckingham rather than, you know, Stevie Ray Vaughan or anything like that. So, and guitar kind of is a big part of my writing because, you know, people say I play guitar
Yeah.
pianistically, you know, like a piano, because I often use different bass notes than are in the chord, and um, so that's what I do. Sometimes I'll play piano and then transfer it to
Mhm.
guitar, or
But you feel
vice
most
versa.
comfortable with the guitar.
I do. I do write on piano, but generally not in front of people. So if I'm collaborating, I'm more secure and
Mhm.
know my way around the guitar more than the
So
piano.
let's talk about your teenage years because you had a record deal when in your teen years. How have you transitioned between the goals as a teenager and the goals in 2023? Let's talk about that.
Wow, that's a great question. You know, always wanted to be a rock and roll star and had a couple of record deals and a couple bad record deals. I won't say with who. And, you know, always had that in mind. But then luckily, people just started recording my songs. And when I was about 18, 19, I was fortunate to have Eric Clapton record one of my songs, I've Got a Rock and Roll Heart, which became a big hit. And when I saw, it's not a money thing particularly, but when I saw that I could make a
Yeah.
living, which I didn't know you could, from just writing songs, um, I started looking at that more seriously. I still carried the dream of having an artist's career, but as more and more people started recording my songs, it felt pretty good to just concentrate on the creative aspect and not have to be on the road, although I've enjoyed touring as a guitar player and with other artists, but I think the lifestyle can be a lot
Yeah.
more normal as a songwriter. So that's
Yeah, I can only
that's how
imagine
that
what it's
happened.
like as a touring musician, right? You're on the road, like maybe the tour is 6, 7 months, and then the tour stops, and you're like, what now? What are we doing now?
That's true. That's true. I think people, actors on film sets have that same thing. There's kind of a letdown. There's all this excitement and all this adrenaline, and then it's over, and the people kind of dissolve into their parts of the world, and you kind of figure out what am I doing. And that's a big part of it too. If you're away, people forget you. You know, forget you for guitar sessions
Yeah,
or
so you
writing
miss out on
sessions or
things
whatever.
because if you were just in one city, just planted, you're like, I'm kind of tied up right now. Like I'm on this tour for most of the year.
Right, right. Um, we I live in Nashville,
Mhm.
although I'm from Los Angeles originally, and we still keep a place in LA. And you know, I never tell anyone where I am because I want the people in Los Angeles to think I'm full time, or uh, you know, if they've got an artist they want me to write with, or that I want to write with, uh, that's I want them to not think, well, I'll wait until Steve comes back into town. So, and I go where it's kind of have guitar
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
have
I
brain, will
feel like
travel.
most musicians do that. They'll be in California, but they'll also be on the East Coast, whether it's New York, Nashville. Like I feel like the music business is on both coasts, so you don't just want to limit yourself to one city. Like you will travel wherever your artist needs you to be, like, right?
Right, right. And it is very interesting. This is a gross generalization, but there are different writing, I won't say techniques, but different writing focuses in the different places where I write. I go also work in Stockholm a lot, and in London, and Nashville and LA, of course. And I would say in each place, there's a different focus. When you're in the Stockholm people, I learn from everybody I write with. And the Swedish people are so into the sounds of words because it's their second language. So if there's a new section coming up, I was writing with a really successful writer there, and I had this line that I thought was a great line. It's like, when something happens, when, and he said, no, it can't be a W, it's got to be a G. It's got to be a K. It's got to be a hard sound. And I'm quite aware of that. I mean, that's why people like Max Martin, you know, even if the lyrics don't make total sense, they always sound great and right, and there's percussion on the right places, and they're very conscious of vowels on held notes. You know, you're not going to go but an O is a good sound of certain notes. So, you know, it's interesting to just learn everybody has a different sensibility. But in the end, you've got to do what you think, what you love, and what feels right to you. You can't defer to people. You can learn from people, but you can't defer. If it's moving you,
that's interesting what you said about words and how important they are. So like, maybe it's not the word what or when, but it's just a sound, like it's a and you're like, okay, well, what is that? How do I write that out? And it's like, no, it's just a right? That's very
right. And it certainly depends on the kind of music. I mean, I'm sure Bruce Springsteen is aware of the sounds of words, but he's probably more aware of the meaning. You know, Bob Dylan's not thinking about, oh, I need to hold an O over this syllable, but in that super pop world, they are thinking about that. And you know, you learn something's got to feel good when you sing it. And if you're not the singer, I've had songs that I thought were great, and an artist came to sing it, and they stumbled over a certain part that felt natural to me, but the transition wasn't universal in a way that they could do it. I mean, that's the difference between writing as an artist versus for an artist. I mean, I still see myself as an artist in my own dreams, not on the stage, but you know, I love just expressing what's in my heart. But there is a certain amount of music business here, and my world is frequently writing with artists and interpreting what they want to do and adding what I want to do, and just making it the best that it can be. I mean, I've been enjoying working some recently with Joss Stone, who's a fantastic British artist. Just love the sound of her voice. So that's another consideration. I'm thinking, does this sound great in her range? Should this part be stronger, higher, lower, longer notes, faster notes? So it's just every day. I mean, I feel fortunate. Every day is a different challenge with a different voice and a different level and kind of talent. I'm learning to accept in my collaborations, not accept, being quite a trained musician and having come up whatever ranks I've come up. It was hard for me to give the credit to people who don't play and don't really sing, but somehow understand the sonics of it so well. I was working, this is not denigrating any particular person, a person whose name I won't mention, but I was working DJ for dance music, and this person had, in my musical point of view, no actual identifiable musical talent. They couldn't sing on key. They didn't know a major from a minor, but they knew dance music, and they knew how long the notes should be, where the drop should be, and in about 20 minutes they'd assembled a great track, So people who are not musicians, there's room with today's technology to be spectacular artists. I mean, a lot in that dance field, but in other areas too. It's another part of the brain, more of the mathematical side, that can manipulate the gear and make a great record. I mean, I'm a producer for sure. I'm not really a beat maker. I mean, I can get a track going and get it to a certain extent, but if I want the latest 808 sounds or the latest hi-hat sound, that's not where my focus is. My focus is on writing the best song I can, working with artists that I enjoy.
I know we spoke a little bit about you traveling in different cities and different countries to record and write with other artists, but talk to me about writing in these different cities and countries, and what have you learned? I mean, you've worked with such a diverse group of people over the years, and you continue to do so. So talk to us about that.
I've learned how to ride the tubes and the subways pretty well, and understand where the trains are going. It's a little intimidating where you can read what the stop on the subway or the train is, but you don't know what it sounds like pronounced, so you're not sure if you're going to miss it or not. That's not really a joke, but kind of true. I've just learned that it seems like every country, every area has a different sensibility. I was doing a Latin American camp for Latin American artists, a song camp, and some great artists came, and it was really a beautiful experience. When I'm writing, I don't do a lot of song camps. They're fun to go to, and I feel privileged to be invited to some of them. But in pop, American music, English music, everybody's trying to be edgy, more edgy. Okay, can it be said in a more edgy way, a less romantic way, a more, a harder way? And in the Latin American camp, it was like I'm trying to edge everything up and say, no, it needs to be romantic. It needs to be love. And I just love that, because I think a lot of people, that's the primal instinct, to be loved and to love and to be romantic, but it's not considered hip very much. You don't hear in current popular US music, you don't hear a lot of love songs. So that was a sweet thing in the Latin market. And these are gross generalizations. In Nashville, the writing is very focused on every line leading logically. It's very, very linear. I learned a lot when I first moved here. It's like painting a beautiful fruit bowl, over the same basic subject matters, but just doing it in a nuanced, beautiful way. And the subject matter, it's pretty wide in country now, but it's you're not going to get a lot of weird stuff going on. And again, very linear. You get from point A to point B to point C. In London, it's more about the words sounding cool, not necessarily connecting, and almost, in many cases, don't want it to make too much sense. And LA's similar. I mean, it's just want it to sound cool, want it to be hip, want the vibe to be right. So I feel like Nashville is almost like great for songwriting school, to get it, to make sure your flow of ideas makes sense and is linear and perfect. And then you can get weird after that. If you weird, not everyone's going to connect with it. It depends on the artist, certainly. That's not a hard and fast rule, but I feel like I got a good basis. I've started writing in LA, but I learned from some great writers here in Nashville. But I think one of the main things I learned is to trust myself and to trust my instincts, because there are a few cases where I was writing with a writer who'd had a ton of hits, and I didn't really like what was being said, and I thought, well, he must know something, so I'll go with it. And it wound up, the song never really happened, but the stuff that I felt in my bones was the stuff that I was successful with. So, you know, you got to believe in yourself and trust. If it moves
Definitely.
you, it's likely to move
So
someone
I guess
else.
let's dig into that, right? Because there are songs that you do by yourself, and then there's songs that you write with somebody else. And like, how do you balance the compromise? Like, okay, so you kind of let that person take the reins, and you're like, that doesn't feel so good in here, and it never went anywhere, right? And you're just like, oh, but if we did it, you're thinking to yourself, if we did it my way, like I know, like something would more from it, right?
Well, that's a good point. I don't generally let someone take the reins, but if they feel like they know where it's going, where they want to go, I'll go down that road for a while. But if I don't think it's happening, I will, you know, make my thoughts known and show where I think it needs to go. But I love it when an artist really has a point of view. Sometimes I get put in the room with, you know, an artist who's a new writer, and everybody's a new writer, and they're just looking for anything to jump on. But I really like it if the writer has something that they really want to say, and I can help them achieve that.
Do you prefer working more with another songwriter or with the artist themselves?
You know, that's another great question. They're both great and they're both different. I mean, obviously, it's great writing with your friends, but not writing with someone I'm totally comfortable with. But in my world, if I can get put with an artist who maybe I don't know, and until I'm comfortable with them, I just make sure I do my homework, know what their style is, and I usually come in with some ideas that I really believe in. And that can be fun if you hit it off, but sometimes not every writing situation works out. And I'm one who is subject to the chemistry in the room. If the chemistry is weird, someone would think I have no talent whatsoever, because I can feel shut down if the vibe is cold or weird. But if the vibe is great, occasionally.
Very interesting that you said that, right? Because you could be in a room with anybody and you could be like, yep, this is going to go great. But if the energy and the vibes are not where they need to be, then do you kind of at the end be like, maybe we shouldn't like work together? Like, do you say that, or do you just kind of go with it?
I don't think I've ever said it, but that's certainly been the effect. You know, I'm not, in my mind, I'm not doing this again. It's not worth it. I mean, it's supposed to be fun and soul soothing in some way. I mean, I think it is. In my mind, it is. So, I love working with just about anybody that has something to contribute. But the world that I'm in is trying to write with artists as much as I can. Although I've just done my own record with a woman named Laura Johnston, which has really been fun for sync purposes, for getting on film and TV, and that's been a real artistic process for me. But it's been a long time since I've been an artist, so it's great to be able to do something just whatever I want with no parameters whatsoever. And I'm doing more of that these days because that's why I got into.
And it's cool to go back to your roots when you think of like one of the main reasons you got into music.
Yeah, girls, of course. But I'm married happily, so it's still.
And there's so many different elements of music that you can do, right? You could be a session musician, you're a touring musician, songwriter, engineer, producer. Like, there's so many different things that you can do with music, and it's ever changing. And as you know, the landscape has changed so much, right? With social media and AI, and like we're just trying to keep up with what's happening, right?
Definitely. And, at a certain point, you kind of figure out what your strengths are. And I have certain technological strengths, but I'm not going to be the most computer wizard guy in the room. And I don't really want to be. My strength is honing in and writing the best possible song that I can write, either or with someone. So that's my strength. And I need, in keeping up with the technology, yes, I need to do that to a certain degree. But I find if I'm spending hours editing the hi-hat, there are people that can do that better than me, and that's a waste of my time. So, and it's so easy with not AI, but Splice and certain sample things to pull in the right thing without spending hours and hours.
Yeah.
For me, but there's people that love that stuff that spend 2 days on the drums for one song, and great.
Yeah,
that's great.
You just have to ultimately know what you enjoy and what works best for you, and lean into that and be like, well, this is where my strengths are, because there's so many different realms that you could get into.
Right. I mean, in these days, oftentimes there's, quote, a track guy in the room. I mean, sometimes I'm the track guy, but if I'm working with an artist, it makes the whole process go quicker if I'm kind of focusing on the songwriting with the artist and I've got a track person. That's kind of an insulting term, I think, track person, but it seems to work. I'm kind of building a track while we're writing the song. Or there isn't a track person, I'll be the track person and get it going. But sometimes the best presentation for me is the most stripped down. I can spend like a week or 2 weeks producing a song, and I love it. And then at the end, well, I'll just do a version with just the guitar and the vocal. And very often that's the one that gets the reaction and
Yeah, I think some of
the
the best
forward.
songs, if you hear the stripped down version, it's much more appealing than, when it's all engineered and it's like a radio play, right? Like a play for radio. But on the show, I've had a lot of people, I've heard a single and then they come on my show and they do like the stripped down version. I'm like, I like the acoustic better.
Yeah, it's funny because, around the world, as technology has spread everywhere, everyone has the same friggin' sounds. Everyone's got the same bass program, and everybody's got the same drum program. So it really has gotten homogenized. So when someone can sit down and play a song top to bottom with one instrument and it affects you, I think it's, for me, it's preferable. That's when a song hits, like the Louis Capaldi song, for instance. It's just raw voice and raw piano, and people relate. Everybody relates.
And you think of like the Louis Capaldis, or even Ed Sheeran, like he's up there with his acoustic guitar, and you're like, this is weird. He's like he's playing these arenas. It's just like him and his acoustic. He doesn't need anything else. Just like him up there by himself. It's awesome.
Right, he's got all that, the looping technology really figured out.
Yeah,
and amazing. He's a great writer, great singer. Yeah.
What song do you consider to be your proudest achievement?
Well, I have a lot of songs I love, but there's one song that had an interesting life journey, and it was a #1 record for Faith Hill called "Let Me Let Go." It's a song that I really believed in, but nobody was really jumping on it. So I wound up re-demoing it, re-recording it 5 times in different styles. I thought it could work in the country market, so I kind of stripped out some chords and did it simpler. Then I thought it could be more like that band Extreme, was kind of that way. And then finally, we had a relationship with Dan Huff, who's a very successful producer here, and played it for him a number of times. And he said, "Oh, I love this, but I don't have anyone for it." And then he was producing Faith Hill, and he heard it and loved it, and wound up going back to the main original demo that I did, which was just a guitar and vocal. And the song, for today or for even any time, it's got a lot of complicated chord changes, and I think that kind of scared people away, particularly in Nashville, as somebody said, it's got too many out-of-town chords, which I thought. Let me play a little bit of it for you here. I don't know if nobody needs to see my guitar, I guess, but. I thought it was over, baby. We said our goodbyes, but I can't go a day without your face going through my mind. In fact, not a single minute passes without you in it. Your voice, your touch, memories of your love are with me all of the time. Let me let go, baby. Let me let go. If this is for the best, why are you still in my heart, still in my soul? Let me let go. Let me let go.
Thank you for playing that.
Thank you for asking me and listening. That song has there's a few songs that I can think of that have that kind of setup where the singer singing "Let me let go." Well, no one can let you let go. You've got to let go for yourself. So it's kind of a false premise that I really like. The John Waite song "I Ain't Missing You at All" is an example. It's like, yeah, you really are missing this person. So I kind of have always liked that kind of lyrical dichotomy.
And so the reason, like the emotions behind that song, how was that associated with just your love of it?
You know, after the song was successful, it was really interesting to me how people have interpreted it. I've had people come up and say that the song represented their struggle with alcohol, for instance. So that was powerful. One of the most satisfying and powerful things to me is when a song means something different to somebody than you thought it did. To me, it was about a broken relationship that you hoped you'd be over with. You'd hoped you'd be able to walk away from, but somehow this other person, even though they weren't in your life anymore, their presence was still holding you. So it was very cathartic.
Yeah, because you wrote it one way, but then someone else can use it as maybe they're in a bad breakup or a bad marriage or drug or alcohol addiction, right? And it's kind of like, it's interesting how these songs can mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
So this year, you were a mentor on the new Access TV show, Banded. Can you talk about the role on the show and how it felt to guide your band, Monochromatics?
Yeah, that was really a fun experience for me. We had a really diverse group of musicians, wonderful bass player who came pretty much from the urban hip hop world, and Alicia was kind of from the rock world, and Kelsey, the drummer, was kind of multi-genre, and then I had this Hawaiian brother and sister, Leah Hona and Amen, and they were pretty contemporary urban pop artists. So melding all that was a bit of a challenge, but I loved seeing them grow as a band, and as you learn everyone's humor and sense of community, it was exciting and fun. And since college, I hadn't really been in a situation that was so communal. There's like 25 people in the whole Banded experience, so it was really nice for me, and it was great producing the records I did on Monochromatics. They're a great band. I hope wonderful things happen.
And every week you guys had to come up with a new song, so it was just kind of like you had these deadlines that you needed to hit.
It was a deadline, and some of the descriptions, they wanted a novelty song one week. So how do you write a novelty song? I mean, do it. You don't have the time to really second guess, which that's good. That's a great thing about deadlines in general for me. It's like, okay, here it is, going to give it my all, and then when it's passed, it's kind of, let it fly if it flies, and if it doesn't.
So of the songs that we heard, them perform on the show. Which was your favorite and why?
Oh gosh. We have a song called Love Is, which kind of very simple. Love is Love. It's about how every kind of love is legitimate and nothing that's wrong or taboo. And it had the Beatles, love is all you need kind of, all you need is love feel. So it's very sing-songy and very anthemic and very comforting. That might be my favorite. We also have a novelty song called I Like the Way Your Mood Swings, which is really a fun song that I have yet to produce, but I'm looking forward to doing that. That's kind of Meghan Trainor, Elle King, kind of tongue.
Very nice. So, I mean, I guess looking back on that experience, what did you take from being associated with the new show Banded?
You know, it was really more the relationships than anything. All the other mentors were great, and one of the other mentors, Paul Ebersol, gave me this book called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, which is actually kind of changed my life in a wonderful way. About the Stoic philosophy, which we don't need to get into here, but it's just kind of surprising. A 2,000-year-old book could have so much. It's not 2,000, that's the Bible, but 1,500 or whatever. And just, you know what it was? It was the communal thing of seeing everybody root for everybody else. The bands, of course, were competitive, and everybody wanted to win. It's the goodwill that everybody had for the other bands. That was very moving to me, and really a great experience, because there's so much competition in this business, and to see everybody.
And for people that are not familiar with the show Banded, they took 25 musicians, they put them in a house together, put them in these bands, and then they had mentors that helped them write and record and perform these songs. And this was 8 episodes, like 2 months. Like when we say, like, this was not a 6-month extravaganza. This was like boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? And it's got to be so crazy for all those musicians that were so very talented. They're just randomly put in these bands, and then they're like, oh, now we need to start recording and writing and stage presence for performance. And then like it's got to be so crazy for them.
It does. And I don't know all the drama that went behind, but I expect there's a lot that I did not see. But you know, everybody getting used to their roles. I mean, not everybody can be a lead singer or should be a lead singer. Or there were certain bands that maybe had more than 1 or 2 lead singers that people wanted to express themselves, which I understand, and not everybody got to. But hopefully, if things go like I hope they will, everybody will get their shot.
So, looking back on your career, what advice would you give to other songwriters who want to make music a career?
The only thing I can say is listen to everything. Don't copy, but listen, and don't do cliches in your own music. If you're saying something that you think you've heard 1,000 times, really look at that. Rewrite until every line moves you. It's funny, sometimes I don't realize if there's a weak line in my song because I'm singing and I'm loving it. And then when I'm playing it for somebody, my wife in particular, Terry, who's a wonderful sounding board and has lots of great advice, if something's weak, I'll notice it while I'm playing it for her. It's like, oh, it's kind of boring there for a little while. Something needs to get, get fixed up. But also improve your skills and your tools. There's so much to learn. I used to still buy sheet music sometimes. You don't have to, I mean, although I do read notes in music, it's the chords I'm interested in finding out. I'll get Stevie Wonder or whoever. Charlie Puth is great with chords. There's a lot of more interesting chords creeping back into pop music. And you have your ear familiar with that. I mean, the Machines and technology has made it very easy to create a song out of a 4-bar loop that never changes. And that's a skill in itself. Half the music on the radio is a 4-bar loop, and you have to be pretty creative to figure out new melodies to keep coming back to over those same 4 bars. And it does give kind of a hypnotic repetition that a lot of hit songs have, but there's a lot to be learned. You know, Ariana Grande has a lot of very cool chord changes in her stuff. And as I mentioned, Charlie, and you mentioned your, well, Earth, Wind, and Fire, for instance, have, they're, of course, from the past, but great chord changes. I think that great chord changes are coming back.
That's important, though, and I love that you talked about Charlie Puth. I think Charlie Puth is one of those performers that he posts a lot of stuff on social of how, like, I remember I saw a video he did. He opened a door and it squeaked, and he's like, I'm gonna take that creak and I'm gonna song out of it, and it showed how he ultimately came up with that song. And then you hear the song off his album, and you're like, that was so crazy that the song literally started from the creak of a door. Like, that's wild.
Exactly. I had a friend years ago who had a very vocal cat, and he put the cat on its stomach and petted it, and as it purred, he'd record that and then loop that, and that became a part of the song.
Yeah. You never know where the song will ultimately come from, right? So,
right.
Steve, for the beautiful people watching this right now that love you and want to support you, what advice do you have for them? How can they follow you in your musical journey? What can they do?
You know, I'm just now, in fact, with your encouragement as well, jumping into working my Instagram a bit more. It's just Steve Diamond 3. You know, I have, it's not been a big part of my world, and I need it to be. I see how valuable it is. So just look at Instagram. I'll be posting stuff with the artists I'm working with way more frequently. But as I mentioned, I've got Joss Stone coming up, and Orianthi, and I think Vince Gill, and various other artists that I love working with. And I've got a young artist named Bailey Morrison who lives close to you. You were aware of her shortly. She's a country artist, but really got charisma.
Well, we're excited to hear all this new music that's going to come from all these incredible artists. Yay!
I'm excited.
Well, that's all the questions that I have for you this evening. But guys, if you're in the room right now and you have questions for Steve, feel free to put them in the comments. We will take a couple of your questions. Do you have like a dream collaboration that you have always wanted to work with a specific songwriter or artist?
Boy, that's a great question. Johann Sebastian Bach, I think we'd write some great songs together. I'm just joking. You know, Ed Sheeran's a big favorite. I like singer-songwriters, so Ed Sheeran's a favorite, James Arthur, Adele, you know, obviously Paul McCartney. Just that's who's coming to the top of my brain.
Are there any underrated artists that you currently listen to who you believe deserve more recognition?
You know, I'm going to have to think about that. There are, because I hear them all the time, but it's just not coming to me right now. Let me tell you, if you don't mind, a piece of one other song that is real important to me, a new one. I wrote it with Alan Shamblin. It's called Be Careful Out There. I know your head is full of dreams, and you're gonna do amazing things. You believe that you can change this world somehow. Much as I hate to let you go, I won't be the one to tell you no. You wouldn't be an angel if your head weren't in the clouds. I'm there for you, but I'm scared for you. Don't let them take the innocence I love you so much. Don't let them change your heart or say your faith is just a crutch. There are devils round each corner, and when they play, they don't play fair. Go on and fly, but be careful out there. Heaven knows we need more light, like the kind that's in your eyes. I can't be the only one to see it shine. 'Cause what kind of love would that be if I refused to set you free? If I clipped your wings and broke your heart, I'd just be breaking mine. I'm there for you, but I'm scared for you. Don't let them take the innocence. I love you so much. Don't let them change your heart or say your faith is just a crutch. There are devils round each corner, and when they play, they don't play fair. Go on and fly, but be careful out there. Go on and fly, but be careful out there.
Woo! And who are you working on that with?
A great writer named Alan Shamblin. There's more to the song, but that seemed like a logical.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was amazing. Of course.
Well, thank you.
Watts Work says, what are your thoughts on Steely Dan and their chord progressions?
Oh my gosh, that's so a question in my heart. I think they're about the best, among the best that have ever been. There have been other jazz-ish rock bands like Chicago, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, etc. But they amalgamated it into a unique style. I could not think more highly of an artist than Steely Dan. They're unique in their subject matter. Oftentimes people that are so schooled musically don't have the lyrical weirdness and creativity that they had. I think their chord changes are amazing, and their songs are amazing, and production is amazing. And I've got a Steely Dan t-shirt somewhere.
Yeah, I think Steely Dan, I grew up on Steely Dan. My mom loves Steely Dan, so like I listened to them all throughout my childhood years, and it's just, you hear those lyrics, you hear all the jazz influence, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like all those songs just touch you in such a way and leave such an impact on your spirit and soul.
They do, and they're not linear like Nashville songs. It's like, and they put in all of my when I had publishers, they were saying, don't put anything too specific. Don't put people's names in there. Don't put cities in there. And these are just general things that you might hear, because not everyone's going to relate to it if you say a girl's name or city. I totally disagree with that now, but Steely Dan did tons of that. They talk about just one line. I put her in my old school, I put her on the Wolverine up to Annandale. Now, what does that mean? The Wolverine probably is some kind of train or something, and Annandale is somewhere in New York. Is Annandale?
I think it might be. I feel like I know, but I feel like, I don't know if it's either Pennsylvania or New York, but I'm like, Annandale, where is that? And that's the thing, is like when you listen to those songs, like you try to make sense of it, like, wait, what were they talking about there? Like, because it's so it's so amazing lyrically, and then you're like, I really don't know what they were talking about, but it was great.
So interesting. I mean, it's interesting, just interesting lyrics. You can say just about anything these days, including cuss your head off, but if there's something really unique that catches your ear, that's all the best for me.
Well, Steve, do you have any final words for the room?
Just, you've been such a pro. Love talking to you, and
of course, Steve, this was so much fun. Like I said, you already were on the Banded podcast, but I was like, Steve, you got to come on my show because we can get really into some deep things here. Guys, if you don't already, please make sure to follow Steve here on Instagram. Do you have anything coming up that you want to plug? I know that you said that you have some projects that you're working on, but anything else that's coming up in 2023?
Yeah, yeah, 2023. Oh, yeah, that's this year, isn't it? Yeah, I have, there's a girl, Bailey Morrison, that's going to come out shortly. Some more stuff with Joss Stone, but go check out LJ and the Diamond Mine. That's my record. It's on Spotify and it's on Extreme Music. I think you'll enjoy that. That's something that's off the beaten path. And I'm going to do my own record coming up. I'll finish it this year.
Awesome.
But
When
I'm not sure
you
when
drop
it will
your
come
new
out.
album, you know you need to come back. Amazing.
Absolutely,
Guys,
I know it.
please give Steve a round of applause. Thank you, Steve, so much for hanging out with us, guys. If you don't already, please make sure to follow Steve here on Instagram. He has a lot of cool things coming up. And if you're new here, I'm Ashley Live. This is Vibin with Ashley Live. Give us both a follow, support good music, and have a beautiful evening. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Very good. Thank you.